Yeah. All right. Hi, I'm Isaac, and I'm stuck in an endless cycle.
And I'm Claire, and I'm also stuck in an endless cycle.
You can't just take my what? And this is make
Make
that
that game,
game
where we pitch the latest
the greatest
new video game ideas.
that we, you know, ideas, man. They just exist in the brain. You're not gonna buy these games. Or are you?
Where are
Wait,
you?
I didn't look at the camera. Or are you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, great. Well, folks, we have we're mixing it up a little here at Make That Game. So if you noticed, if you're a subscriber, which you should be, you would have noticed
Subscribe.
on you would have noticed on your podcast feed and or YouTube feed homepage, whatever they call it on YouTube, is we have released an episode before this episode about our news and updates. So we're not going to do that in these episodes, and we mixed around the order a little bit. So we're actually going to hop right in to our pitch sesh. We're going to pitch those games that will never be made. And I forget who I put first. Isaac, do you know who goes first?
Well, I assume since you're talking now, it makes the best sense if you're like, do you have a game to pitch for me, Isaac? And
Sure.
then
So,
I go, I sure do. And
all
then
right,
I trade it off to you. We should just constantly trade off is how
let's do it.
orders
Yeah.
should work.
Yeah. So, Isaac, do you have a game to pitch to me today?
I do. The working title, I couldn't come up with a good title. I figure there's a play on words that I can get in there somewhere, but it's working title called Splatter. Boring, non-evocative, but we'll workshop that
Okay.
at some point. It is basically a JRPG, Japanese RPG. With, you have a party, you have character levels, you gain experience, you get items like potions and ethers, you do battles, you explore around a map and talk to a bunch of characters, and there's a big epic story. However, instead of the traditional RPG battle system, of you input a bunch of commands and then your characters attack based on speed and stuff. No, it is based on launching blobs of paint or paint filled weapons at a table. So imagine basically that you are controlling a catapult in these battles. So you can set the strength, you aim, and then you can set like the strength and like when you actually launch the projectile, and then when the projectiles hit the table, they splatter, covering a
Okay.
portion of table with your color of paint. And then your goal is to fill the enemy's health zone, which is basically like a specific area on the table that represents how much health they have. When that's completely filled with your color of paint, then they are defeated. So that's basically the HP. Um, is this making any sense to you? Should I re-clarify anything that I've stated so far?
I think maybe the table situation, like dining room tables, is what I'm picturing. I don't think that's
Uh,
correct.
it basically just a flat surface. I imagine that because this is a RPG, that the like table thematically will look different depending on where you are. Like if you're traveling in a forest,
So,
it'll be like so by a table I mean like a flat plane basically
mhm.
that just represents a gameplay area, not like a literal table,
Okay.
but just a flat plane where your like catapult apparatus exists nebulously off into
Got it.
space, and you're just launching things at this
So
flat
you're
plane.
traveling through some kind of realm, and then like every time you battle, this is the battle mechanic
It
and
goes
stuff.
to a different screen, which abstracts the battle between characters as like this kind of paint a thon.
Okay. Colorful.
Yeah.
All right.
S- So into like some of the nitty gritty design. Oh, and so it is still turn based though. So like your each character is represented by a different catapult with like different weapons or whatever, um, that have different properties, and then you take turns going back and forth with the enemies that are also launching things, trying to fill your HP zones with their
Hmm.
color of paint. So just blue versus red probably most of the time. You could have multi battles where like there's a red enemy and a yellow enemy that are competing with each other against you at the same time,
You fully
which
need
is
to have it so you can pick the color, I think.
well, yes. Yeah, probably. I
I
would probably
think.
let the player pick their colors just for fun, and then it would. Now, the one of the difficult things for accessibility would be to have open like colors, but also make it so that colorblind people could still play and understand the game.
So what I think you could do is do it like football uniforms. Actually, any sports uniform. They have two choices because sometimes the person you're playing against also has similar colors, so that you
Hmm.
can match the contrast best, so no one gets confused. So basically, you could pick like a light color and a dark color, and if you're fighting a dark enemy, then you would be like defaulted to the light color, and that way it would always be contrasting.
Okay, and then also like if it just controls if the colors themselves are meaningless, like there could be design space for like blue is water element, red is fire element. There could be design space for that, but if it is purely aesthetic and it's just showing, hey, the blue paint on the table represents your party and the red paint and the green paint represent different enemies in the same battle, then it can easily be like, okay, the player has picked this color. What are uh N colors that are contrasting and visible to even colorblind people,
Hmm.
um, that it can use. It would just fill in the colors based on what the player picked. So
Right.
there's that. But anyways, so each level I mentioned that like if you travel through the woods, it'll like be a wood themed battle arena slash table. If you're in a desert, it'll be desert themed, and each one will have a layout of various obstacles, and those obstacles would behave in different ways. So like you're walking through the forest, it might have a lot of trees. And what those trees do is when your weapon hits the trees, it's just an obstacle. Nothing special happens, but like some areas might have super bouncy obstacles. So when your projectile or whatever hits that obstacle, it'll bounce further than expected or in a different direction than you expected, or it'll be spiky, so it'll like instantly pop your projectile and
Hmm.
splatter the paint on it. And then the goal is that you have to figure out how to use these different obstacles to your advantage, um, or to avoid them, like if they're not going to help you in any way with your current layout. Then each character is going to have different weapon options, and you'll be able to get different weapons throughout the game. And some might have like limited ammo, some are like unlocked through specific ways, but each projectile will basically have different behaviors. Like you might be able to equip one that always splats as soon as it hits the table, no matter what. It doesn't slide, it doesn't bounce, it just hits and it splats. Or you get one that will always splat on the first obstacle. Like if it hits anything, it's very delicate, so it'll splat, but like it might have like a larger area that it splatters across. You might have something that is resistant to spiky obstacles. So like if one of these like paintballs hits a cactus, it might normally pop on the spot, but like this is resistant to spikes, so it can bounce off of the cactus, but is in trade off, it's less bouncy, or it doesn't have as much range, or it's harder to control in some other way. So each one of your weapons has pros and cons. So you pick your party, you equip them with weapons, which will be based on like what that character in your party is supposed to do. So like a warrior might have bigger paintballs
Hmm.
or just a bigger paint zone, and then like a healer might uh, be able to hit your own paint zones easier. And I don't know what that means. I didn't think about healers, but it's obvious. It seems obvious to me saying it that if your opponent's goal is to fill your paint zone, you can protect your paint zone by filling it with your own colors. So
Hmm.
there's there's got to be some kind of healing mechanism there, which I'll figure out. And then I keep saying catapults, but I'm imagining catapults like that's also a semi customizable like choice aspect. So like you can have a catapult that'll lob it onto the table, or you might have like a slingshot or something that'll like just slide, like
Hmm.
directly slide it onto the table. So these are the different variables that you as a player will be able to play with as you unlock like different equipment, different character classes, etc. to, you know, play through the
Okay.
game.
Yeah.
And because it's a Japanese RPG, it is going to be 600 hours of anime drama.
Okay. I was gonna ask what the plot was, and I guess there it is.
Yeah, I didn't think too deeply about the plot. Generic save the world stuff. There's a demon lord usurping a kingdom. You are a small peasant boy with unique powers, boy or girl, probably customizable main character, and then you just go on this epic quest across the land, creating or meeting, encountering wacky characters and fighting
Wacky.
nefarious bosses.
All right. Okay.
So that's Splatter. S- Splatter PG because
Okay. Yeah.
RPG splat.
Okay.
Hey Claire, do you have a game to pitch for me?
I do. It's a lot less involved than what you just pitched, so
Okay.
bear with me. But its working title is called Ice Hate. Instead of Ice Skate, it's called Ice Hate.
Wow, I like that title.
And
That's
it's
a really easy stuff. I feel like that's the kind of title that I normally go with. Although I'm imagining it being ICAEH and then the number 8. Is that not correct?
That's not correct. No, it's not.
Ah.
But it is. It's also kind of a game that you would pitch, I think. It's
Okay.
actually a game I probably wouldn't enjoy playing, but I came up with the idea anyway. So
We
just
love
working
those.
outside the box. It's an arcade-style fighting game. Think Street Fighter.
Okay.
But it takes place on an ice rink, and you fight with your feet. So you've got
Okay,
murder
perfect.
blades on your feet, and you're gonna attack with that.
Now, do you only use your feet or can your characters
No.
punch too?
So you have punching, jumping, and spinning. But like the cool part is, you can like spin with your blade out. You can like lay down and like kick with your feet. Like that, like you can like do like death
Okay.
kicks. I actually picture it being pretty like yucky looking, like because you'd be like slashing each other up with the ice skates.
Oh, so very gory, like Mortal Kombat or something?
Right, but like also you're like figure skaters, so you have cool sparkly outfits and stuff.
Good.
And obviously you can pick your outfit because that is a feature in every game I design. I think it's like you need to have an outfit choice, you need to have some
Right.
character customization, like you get to pick your outfit, your level of sparkles, your the song that you fight to, which would be like a classic like figure skating, like I don't know, like classical music. But you're battling. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty basic, like PvP, arcade. I guess you could do a one, like you could fight the computer as well. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any questions? Again, I kept it really simple this week.
So you said it's like Street Fighter, but is it like 2D gameplay, character on left side, character on right side fighting each other, or is there like
Yeah.
a 3D, like you have the entire ice rink
No,
to
I pictured
skate
it like
around?
2D, like you described.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I did
Cool.
say like Street Fighter because that's the only kind of game I've ever actually played that's like that. But I know there's lots out there that might even be closer. I just that's my only like experience, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's pretty common for like fighting games to be 2-dimensional. I just know sometimes they go 3D, and I wasn't sure if you wanted the freedom, because like if you made it 3D, and I'm just throwing this out there, you could also like have the player actually doing tricks like Tony Hawk skater style and like
Oh my
getting rated on
gosh.
it while fighting.
That's actually really funny. I like bringing Tony Hawk into it. Like
Yeah,
the
so
style of Tony Hawk. Like, oh, she did a triple cow sow and then like decapitated the opponent.
exactly. See, like that would just be an interesting way to take it.
Someone who figure skates, please tell me if a triple cow sow is anything. I just pulled those words out of like various Olympic commentary,
Okay, I like it.
solidified into my brain. So fingers crossed that that's real. But yeah, we could be 3D and do games like that. I've never played the Tony Hawk game. I feel like that would be funny to play.
Neither have I.
I just know it exists. I just know of it. I know it's out there waiting for us, waiting in the
Right.
wings.
Yeah, or yeah, exactly. It's lurking, ever lurking.
Okay, well, those are our pitches. We're now going to move on to our honk and bonk section. So that's where we pick apart the design of a game that we have played. We honk the things we like, and we bonk the things we think could be better. That's how I like to say
The
it.
things we don't prefer.
The things we don't so much prefer in the game.
Yeah, because I don't want to yuck someone's yum. Someone might love what I bonk, but...
And sometimes in the bonks we come up with like ways it could be better too. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool
That's
if,
true.
right?
To our preferences.
Yes. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Isaac, do you have a game to honk and bonk? You don't. Okay.
I don't this week.
That's okay. So I will say, as like a note to listeners, we're gonna start to potentially do less honks and bonks because personally, I'm starting to feel a little pressure to play a new game every week.
Yep.
And then I'm not really playing the games I like. Like, I want to get back into Ori. I want to play, like, actually finish Oxenfree. And, like, I just don't have time to be doing a brand new game every single week. So,
yeah, and then playing it enough to be able to honk and bonk it.
It's not like I can just play 20 minutes. Yeah. And, like, every other part of this podcast so far is fun. So I want to make sure I keep it fun and I don't, like, start to hate video games.
Don't want to burn out on our podcast.
Right. So that's why. So there might be weeks where one of us doesn't have a honk and bonk. There might be weeks where neither of us have a honk and bonk. But we will be honking and bonking games that like we play through and want to talk about. So it's not totally going away, but just to make the listener aware, this is part of the new shiny new improvements. I hope.
And you can still make requests of games that you'd like to hear our honks and bonks on.
Absolutely do that because we will play them. It just might take a little longer. That's all.
Just email us or comment on our YouTube video.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. So in that case, I will honk and bonk. I'm going to honk. Well, okay. And I'm going to say this is like a honk and bonk light because I did not play a ton of this game, but the reason why is a bonk. And so we'll talk about that. So I'm going to honk and bonk Bear and Breakfast. Now, Bear and Breakfast was like a super hot game like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I don't remember when it hit the scene, but it was like everywhere. And I was like, okay, I got to try this game because if you remember back in the day, and I'll try to remember to link the show down below. This is a note to editing, Claire. Find the link to the show when I talked about it. I pitched, one of my very first pitches was B&B, which was a game that was basically bed and breakfast. Like you're creating a bed and breakfast from scratch. And it was both like building and management. So like you could design what it looked like and also manage the bed and breakfast. This game kind of promised to be that. So I was a bit hype for it. Now, what made me not hype is that it's bears. And a thing you need to know about me, this is me personally, I do not like sentient animals very much. I guess they're all sentient, but I do not like, what would you call it? Sapient animals. Yeah, very much. Just as a genre, like Animal Crossing, it was a stretch for me. And the only reason I think I can like play it is because I don't play an animal. Like,
but in this one, you are the titular
this one you're the bear, and
Ugh.
that's tough for me. I'm just not gonna lie, that is tricky for me. I don't know what it is about that, but I don't like it. It's better than being transformed against your will into an animal. That is like an absolute no for me. So things like Spirited Away, Brave, those things, hate them so much.
Oh boy!
But so it's not quite that bad. You've just always been a bear. All right, getting around it. Actually, the way the world is set up is very much like regular show, where there's just humans and also sapient animals.
Oh, that like just coexist with each other. But doesn't the bear still live in the woods?
Yeah. So the storyline goes,
Okay.
I can tell you the storyline. The storyline goes like humans have basically vacated these woods over the years, but they're starting to come back. So like they need to set up places for the humans to stay. And they can make money off of the tourism of the woods. That's basically the plot.
Perfect.
However, there's also like a demon. So like it starts off with the bear being like, I can't sleep ever. And then there's like a demon that's like haunting him and like creeping around the woods. And so I'm like, what? I thought this was about making a bed and breakfast.
What?
Anyway, so
Demon bear.
Let's move into the honks and bonks. So the honk, I'm not going to say there's not that many. The setting is cool. Okay. And the characters are funny. So like the dialogue's really sharp and I like it. And the setting is cool. Like I like the woods. I like the way it's set up. I like learning more about the setting, exploring. Like there's lots to explore. That's nice. I guess I like that it tried to be about a bed and breakfast. I didn't get very far, so I'm sure I could have done more, but
Is this another Binding of Isaac situation?
No. Well, wait, why? In what way?
Because I remember Binding of Isaac, like
Oh,
you hated it intensely from the first like second that you picked it up,
so I
and
think
you fought your way through like playing it just
I
enough to
gave
honk and
this
bonk.
more of a chance.
Okay.
I think I did, but once I got to the actual like bed and breakfast place, because it takes a while. Like they're setting up the story, right? You have to gather materials. It's kind of
We've
Animal
talked about
Crossing,
this before. Hate that, right?
the setup.
Yeah.
I
Like,
liked
let
it.
me
This was
play the
fine. This
game.
was fine, but yeah, you have to. So you gather materials. It's very Animal Crossing in that way. Like you have a crafting bench. You have to craft everything you put into the B&B. So like you have to make the bed. You have to make things like that.
Hmm.
So you learn how to do that, all that stuff, and then you set up your first room, and that's when it kind of lost me. So one of the bonks, the biggest bonk, I think, is the controls. I played this on Switch, I should say, and it came out on Steam first. So it might be better, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it will be better on PC, and I wanted to try it, but guess what? They don't have a Mac version because the controls on the Switch are terrible. I have to hit Y like 5 times to do any kind of building. It's just so clunky to navigate the menus on the Switch to do anything. Like so clunky.
Wow.
There's so many menus and so many options. Like I think it's really designed as a PC game and it probably shouldn't have gone to Switch, honestly.
Because you can probably just point and click at all these
Exactly.
things,
Like
and
if you
5 clicks is completely different from like 5 button
exactly. And I
presses.
think it's because like some of the menu stuff reminds me of the Sims in some senses, like cuz there is a lot of menus in Sims too, but I'm like that's really easy to navigate because I play it on PC.
Yeah.
And so I do think that a lot of why I didn't like it is because it is really not for Switch, and I don't think it should have gone to Switch. I think they should have just left it as a PC game, made a Mac version, and said that's it. So I was kind of bummed because I'm like, I wanted to try this on PC now that I've seen that it's bad on Switch, and I like my personal computer is a Mac, so I'm out of luck there. And I do think it's like it's not enough B&B. Like the aesthetics of the Airbnb, not Airbnb, the aesthetics of the bed and breakfast you set up are like leave a lot to be desired. And then there's so much like detailed management that I'm confused already. Like it's like you have to like schedule when guests come and like when they leave, and you're going to have multiple locations. It's like already a franchise. And it's like, I don't know. It just was a confusing, like, I get that it's management, but I just didn't, I don't know. It's just confusing
Hmm.
and not like exciting confusing, like frustrating confusing.
You just were not walking into this expecting to play a franchise management
No, like I really
sim.
wanted it. I wanted it to be about one bed and breakfast in the woods. That's all I wanted. And now it's about like demons and like
The old bait and
tourism.
switch. You ever just wanted to play a game where you make one bed and breakfast, but then demons show up?
It's about demons
Come
and a
on.
franchise. I don't know. Yeah, it just wasn't. So sadly, Bear and Breakfast turned out not to be for me. If it does make a Mac version, I might actually try it because I think there's potential there, and that's why I was so hesitant to stop because I was like, but I think I could like it,
Yeah.
but I
It
cannot play it on
feels
the
like your kind of
Switch.
game.
Yeah, it feels right, but it's also is not quite there, which is a huge bummer. Yeah, because like I said on the B&B episode, like the Sims even had some kind of hotel design element in Sims 2, but it wasn't like quite correct. And like there's Hotel Story, which I do want to play, but that seems way more management and less design, which is not correct. Like I want both. And I think this one
Yes.
too is way more management than design. Like you can design it to a point, but there's not a lot of options. And that's, so I'm kind of losing out on that part of the bed and breakfast experience. Anyway, that was a long-winded honk and bonk, but that is
Hey, that's what we love. We love diving deep.
we do love diving deep. And speaking of diving deep, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is called Isaac asks a question or Isaac's deep dive. I don't know if we ever leaned. We've called
No.
it both, but
Isaac asked a question. Oh wow. Wait, does that mean that you never get to ask a question?
I guess maybe we should call it the deep dive because it would be good for me to ask a question
Yeah,
sometimes.
sometimes you might have a question to ask.
Yeah,
You might think about something and be like, let's talk to someone more experienced with game thoughts.
yeah,
That's what I'm calling myself, more experienced with game thoughts. Anyways,
good.
so okay, I came up with this question, and maybe I should have predicted that we would touch on this a lot in between the news and updates. And but, but here's the question that I came up with: What does it take you to, or what does it take to get you to replay a game.
To replay a game. Okay.
Which we have talked a lot about when you gave your update about
Yeah.
Oxenfree,
I know.
and we kind of touched on it in this episode. I mentioned I'm stuck in an endless cycle, referring to No Man's Sky.
Well, you're not replaying No Man's Sky, though. You're just continually playing No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I guess with a literally infinite game, like with no end,
or like Animal Crossing,
is
like
a
you
little
can't.
different.
Well, you can replay Animal Crossing and start over.
Yes. But anyways, yeah, I would like to hear, what does it take to get you, Claire, to like replay a game? Because we also talked about you replaying Link's Awakening. So
right.
it's, even though I picked this before we recorded the episode, it has been a running line through the whole episode. This has been amazing, but we've also maybe already covered the ground.
No, I don't think so, because we didn't. I talked about what frustrates me. I didn't talk about what excites me or why I would be interested. So I think actually I surprised myself in wanting to replay games at all. Because as Isaac has mentioned multiple times, and I have too, I am not a big repeater of things. Like, I read a book, I read it, you know?
Yeah. Same.
I don't do that. But I do, like, there's some things I rewatch. Like, I rewatch TV shows every now and then. I rewatch, I've been reading Gideon the Ninth, or the Locked Tomb series. Highly recommend everybody read it, please. And that I'm literally ready to reread it already, even though I'm trying to wait till the last book comes out to like hype myself up for the last book. But I'm itching to go. So I think one, it has to be a story that I like, right? A story I want to go back to and do again. So like that's why I would reread a book. That's why I would replay a game. Like,
I have a question.
Yeah.
You did state in the news and update segment, or I guess episode in Oxenfree, you love the story, but you don't like replaying through the story.
Okay, so my other stipulation was time.
Okay.
Time really matters.
Okay.
I would not. So one of the reasons I want to reread the Locked Tomb series, it's not that I want to reread the book I just read. I want to reread the first book in the series, which I read, months ago. Which is still a pretty quick turnaround for me, I will say. But I just love that, And also because there's things I think I missed. Like, I'm pretty sure I missed details. Or now that I know certain things, it's going to be more interesting to read it, right?
Okay.
That's the same with a game. So, like, one of the reasons I want to replay Link's Awakening, that was, like, the first top-down adventure game I ever played. Like, the first. And so it was a rough going sometimes, right? Because I just didn't know. I mean, I was learning how to use a Switch while playing that game. Like, I'd never played the Switch before. And so, like, there was a lot of learning happening. I mean, my favorite anecdote, I think I've told it here before, but that I just didn't talk to people. I didn't know you were supposed to. So I just didn't. Right. And Isaac's like, oh, well, they're going to tell you what to do next. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, also, I think there's the trading game aspect, which is in a lot of Legend of Zelda games, but, like, if you don't talk to people, you don't get the items, and a certain item is required to progress past certain points. So it's like you have to talk to these people to find out what items they want.
Like I said, there's a lot of learning. I also played that game in 2020, so fully like 2.5 years ago. So it's been a long time. I loved the game, right? So I love the story. I love the look of the game. And I know I could probably do it better and probably, like, do more things with it, right?
Speedrun?
Maybe.
40-minute speedrun. Let's go.
I do. I don't know. I'm like tempted. I think also I will say SGDQ, or not just S, but GDQ, because ADGQ is coming, folks. I'm already
February,
hyped about it.
I think
January.
Really, February? Okay, January.
I put it in the calendar. Don't you worry.
Good. Can't miss that.
We're hyped. We're getting ready. But anyway, so watching speedruns makes me want to replay games because I watch these people. They have to replay them like hundreds, thousands of times to get these things that are cool. And I'm like, oh man, like Kirby, I replay levels constantly now. Well, not now, but like recently. To get better and better and better. So I think there is this like achievement thing that draws me back. Like the reason I'm replaying Kirby levels is because I'm 100%ing it. So it's like I've set a goal for myself. So I think the two things would be if I love the story, if I feel enough time has passed, and or if there's goals I'm looking to achieve that I haven't yet achieved. So like if I care about 100%ing it, or if there's like a side quest that I really want to do, but like didn't get to do the first playthrough, like those kinds of things. Now what's interesting is that I do not have any inkling, and this could change, but I have no inkling to play Life is Strange games again. Like,
at
not
all.
even a
Even
little
though they
bit.
have they try to entice you. They have multiple endings,
I know. And like, again,
branching story paths,
it could
and
change, right? Like, I could change my mind. Maybe it just hasn't been long enough for those games. Maybe I need more time in
mhm.
between. But something about them just feels done to me, like that I did it. Like, I think the stories are interesting, but maybe not enough that they're cozy for me to want to revisit.
Mhm.
And I'm not really tempted
They're
by the
not really
extra.
cozy stories, especially
No,
Life is
but
Strange 2.
no, and I think there's like this like comfort of repeating something, right? Like
Mm,
when I
mhm.
repeat something, like so I rewatch Gilmore Girls like multiple times in my life. It's because it's a comfort to me to
Yes.
expect the story, and it's like I don't find it comforting to like watch someone be like beat up on the side of the road, a la Life is Strange too.
Yes.
So it's like it was a rough story. I feel like also I did end it. Like I know there's multiple endings I could get, but I already told that story in a way. Like I told it the way I played, and like replaying it would almost like invalidate that ending. I mean, that's
Mm,
not
mm.
true, but that's kind of what's holding me back. So yeah, those don't interest me in replaying. Whereas things like Link's Awakening, like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, yeah, those do.
Oxenfree, sort of? Like, I don't know.
Oxenfree,
You seem like torn on it.
I don't. So with Oxenfree, I wouldn't count this as a replay because it's like part. Like
You're right.
again,
You're still. It's designed for you to play
it's
this
weird.
multiple times
And
like
yeah, so if
that.
you want
Yeah.
more details on that, listen to our news and updates episode. But yeah, that's different. Like I would count a replay as me starting a new game file on that and actually starting again. And I don't
Okay.
think I would do that.
Okay. Gotcha.
At least not
Gotcha.
yet. Maybe in like 5 years. Although they're didn't they release a new one?
Oxenfree 2?
I think so.
Hold on. Let
Or it's
me
coming
clicky
out.
clack. So it does have a release date for 2023.
Yeah, so I would play that. But that's
Okay.
not the same thing.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
just playing a
definitely not
sequel.
replaying. Yeah. That's a different game, actually.
Yeah, anyway. All right, so that's my answer. That was a long-winded answer, but Isaac, what about you? What makes you want to replay a
Um,
game?
in 2022, I don't think anything. So, okay. We have talked about on this podcast Dragon's Dogma is a recent one that I tried replaying and I got to a certain point in it and I just have not felt an interest in picking it back up. Chrono Cross, I was very excited for like the remaster for the Switch. When that came out, I played it for a bit and then never picked it up again. And this is a pretty constant thing. This is the endless one of the endless cycles I'm stuck in. It just I don't know. There's not a lot of things that will entice me to replay something that I'm done with at this point in time, especially because it's already a little bit of a chore for me to play games in the first place when they have, you know, when the startup is 75 minutes of cutscenes before you get a single moment of gameplay.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I would ever be able to replay Horizon Zero Dawn for that reason
Would you
because
replay it if you could skip that? If you could skip
if I
through
could,
it?
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna so instead of like giving my reason for replaying a game, I'm actually gonna deep dive into like some incentives that I've seen and kind of break those down. Do you agree with that?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of games will have what's called a new game plus. So Dark Souls does this. Basically, it takes the game. It might change a few things like story wise, but for the most part, it's literally the same game but harder. Um, every time you beat Dark Souls or like Elden Ring, you can play their new game plus, and then you beat it again at new game plus plus, which is even harder than new game plus plus plus, and it gets ridiculous like new game plus 999, which
Hmm.
is 999 pluses that you've beaten the game 999 times. And I don't even know if it caps that. I don't know if you can get in the thousands, but that's one way to do it. Just like give them because the core gameplay loop is what really appeals to people in these kinds of games. Just taking that core gameplay loop and making it a little bit more difficult, give them a ever increasing challenge to try to beat is often enough to get a lot of people to replay multiple times. I've never done a new game plus myself, and I didn't mention this part, but it is the same character each time. So you are taking your like level 900 character into new game plus starting from the beginning, and then like the beginning of the game is now as hard as the end of the game was respectively, effectively. So like
Hmm.
you have that like almost not infinite, but like that continuous progression in challenge versus player skill slash power of items and stuff that you have. So that's one way to do it. Honestly, that probably is the most appealing, would be the most appealing to me. The second way is remastering a game. So take an old game, update the graphics, upgrade the engine, make it, maybe change some story elements that like haven't aged well, or change some scenes that were like confusing or whatever. Um, get new voice acting if the voice acting was bad. Basically, like take, it's the same basic game, but now improved and modernized. That is another way. That's what I thought Chrono Cross was going to get me on. Didn't particularly uh didn't particularly get all the way there, especially because there was some performance issues. I know I said when I first was playing it, I didn't notice it being that much worse than the original, but the fact that it was as bad as the original probably is not a good sign when you take a game and then update it 20 years later.
Probably not. No.
Yeah. Um a really interesting thing is completely redoing the game. So, caveat, I've never played Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy VII has had remakes, or I don't know what you would call them at that point, but they've basically taken the game and like completely modernized it, even to the point where like the gameplay isn't even the same. Like they've
Okay.
modernized
Hmm.
even the gameplay. I don't know if that counts as a replay or if you're playing a new game that has like the same characters and basically the same story, but from what I understand, they've also changed the story somewhat a little bit. Like could just completely modernizing everything from scratch effectively, which is interesting. I don't know if that I don't know, I can't think of a game. Well, they do that. That's what the new Kirby game is going to be.
Oh yeah. What's that game again?
That is Return to Dreamland, I think it's
Yes. Yep.
called. So when that comes out, that is actually what that is going to be. I have not played the original, so it'll be brand new to me. Um, but I did see a speed run of it recently.
Return to Dreamland? No.
Yes,
Oh, the
yeah,
old one.
the original
Okay.
game,
I was like,
not
I
the
don't
new
think
remake.
that'd
It's
be
not out yet.
impressive if
We
they
would
could do that.
know. Yeah.
They somehow got their hands on it and already can do a speed run. That I would be impressed. I would be very impressed.
Yep. And now I'm thinking about it. So going back to New Game Plus, speaking of Kirby's Dream Land, the original Kirby game on Game Boy, was one of my first video games. And when you beat the game, it would tell you, "Hey, press like up B and A at the same time on the start screen." And if you did that, it would do hard mode. It would give you Kirby hard mode, which pretty interesting thing.
Yeah.
Um, all the enemies would be way tougher. I think that there was less health power ups, and there was a couple other things. And I played that a whole bunch, and I was like 5 years old, so it was actually extremely difficult. And I'm not sure if I ever actually beat the game on like their new game plus mode.
Ooh, well, you can try
As a
now.
child, I was a lot more willing to replay games endlessly because you have a Game Boy and you've got 3 games. What else are you gonna do?
And I think that's just also a brain development thing. Like as kids, part of learning is repeating.
Oh yeah, that's why kids watch like Frozen like 10,000 times.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. So I think that's just a feature of being young that,
Yeah.
that that kind of lends itself to replaying games more than you might as an adult.
Yep. So I guess those are. I feel like I had one more in my head, but I didn't. But yeah, those are design things that you can implement to entice replayability.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, the third one is like a roguelike. I'm not sure if I consider that like
Replaying.
replaying because the entire idea is that every time you play it,
It's
it
different.
is going to basically be a completely unique experience because it is a completely randomly generated what enemies are where, what the level layouts are, what items you get, etc., etc. The goal is that you play it 100 million times because that's what the game is, and it's infinitely not infinitely variable, but
I do kind of want to
very
say,
variable.
and I think this connects to what I said about like goals, like say like, oh, I want 100% this or I want to collect. It's like adding collectibles that you can go back and get, which is one of the things that makes me replay Kirby a lot. Because I guess,
Oh yeah, like on a level by like
yeah,
would you, if you had to restart from scratch every single time and to get all the collectibles, like you needed to collect all the
yeah,
collectibles in one run through, like would you replay that, or is this more the micro level, like you will replay given levels, but
definitely
you
given levels, I'll replay. As far as like starting from scratch, it depends on my goal. So, like, one of the things, this is a silly reason, but Isaac started playing Kirby before I did. And so it's on his Switch account. And it kind of bothers me that my 100% is on his account. Like, that's like, that like eats away at me a tiny bit. And it's like,
oh no.
so, but to get it on my account, I would just have to do it on my account. I just have to repeat that. And I also want to try to speedrun Kirby in the Forgotten Land after watching the speedrun on this past SGDQ. So so I would, but I think it's a very unique case where I
Mhm.
just freaking love that game.
Yep. I actually just thought of one more thing, and this ties into some things that you were talking about. So this is going to wrap it all into a bow.
Good, good.
Chrono Cross. When you beat Chrono Cross, so Chrono Cross has a ton of different endings. That's the one that I was thinking of. Tons of different endings makes you want to replay, so you play the game to get new endings depending on new choices or whatever. Chrono Cross, when you beat the game, you can do New Game Plus. It doesn't actually change the difficulty at all, and it does restart your character from scratch, if I remember right. Maybe it doesn't restart your character from scratch. It's been a while, but you restart the game, but now you have the fast forward device so that you can zoom around the maps really fast. Like, it literally fast forwards the game. You can skip cutscenes, you can do all that, and it basically is tailor made so that you can go through the game and get all the different endings. Also, in this new game plus mode that it's got, there's a certain area where you can go fight the final boss whenever you want. And
Oh,
when you beat the
interesting.
final boss, that kind of triggers the new ending. So the game is divided into chapters. And at every chapter that you beat the final boss, it gives you a different ending. So, like, you can start the new game with only your main character, run straight to that area with the fast forward mode,
And
skip through all
just,
the early cutscenes,
yes.
fight the boss, and then it gives you an ending. And if I remember correctly, the ending is basically like, since your quest never escalates to the point where the world is in danger, no one knows that you saved the world. So, like, you're kind of like just this nameless bum basically, instead of like the world saving hero.
Mhm.
And none of your party members like recognize you because you never meet them, etc., etc., because like the entire game never plays. You just wake up one morning, go to the beach, and kill the universe destroying god, and then
Wow.
no one ever knows.
Amazing.
But
Okay.
that was a good way to get me to replay. But all right, I'm done now. We can continue.
Awesome. All right. Well, that means we're on to our final segment, which, like I say every time, my favorite segment is the rapid fire round. I'll generate 3 random words. We have 5 minutes to create a game out of those 3 words. We have to use every word, but we can be pretty creative with the way we use those words. Isaac, are you ready with the timer?
I am ready with the timer. Hit me with those beautiful, beautiful words.
Penalty,
Okay, penalty.
ranch,
Dressing.
pop. Penalty,
Ranch flavored soda?
ranch, pop. All right, so I was thinking pop like pop music, but I like ranch flavored soda as a thought. I'm good. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad we have that. We have put that into the universe.
Nope. All right. Okay. This is going to be very esoteric, and I'm not sure how it's going to come together into gameplay.
Okay.
This is completely out there. Um, kernel. So it's popcorn, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But it's cows. So it's like all these cows that are
Okay.
like popping up into the air, and you have to catch them.
Okay.
But sometimes there's like a bad kernel, and you get penalized for catching those. So you want to catch all the good kernels of popping cows
Yeah.
and
Okay.
not get the bad ones.
I think we're like too far into this idea for us to even conceive of another idea. Like that's just
Oh,
so,
did I ruin it? Did I spoil it?
that's just so much now that like we have to work with it. I think I'll take your popcorn cows. I'll take that. I need something stronger for penalty, though.
Oh, wait, no. Okay, so you're trying to collect the cows, but not collect the bulls.
Okay. So, but like that's not penalty to me. Like penalty needs to
Oh.
be something else. Like that's just gameplay. Like I guess so a penalty, let's walk through like that means like I've done a bad rule and then I have to be in like a penalty box. So maybe like and like the usually the punishment of committing a penalty is either having to sit out so you're not playing the game, so it could be like you sit out for a certain amount of time, or sometimes it's like the other team or whatever gets to like take a shot or whatever the game you're playing is.
Mhm.
So how can we work that element, I guess? Because to me, just having it be like don't collect the bowls is like that's just that doesn't say penalty to me, right?
Right. So now I'm thinking of Kirby Dream Drop Buffet, where you like in the battle royale mode, if you fall off,
Mm-hmm.
you get held for like
Right.
three seconds or whatever, and then popped back in. And all that time, the other players are collecting
Yep.
berries and getting a higher score. So that's kind of what I'm imagining. It's a
Okay.
bunch of players trying to catch as many
Yeah.
cows as possible, and then if they catch a bull, they have to sit out
And watch
and they
everyone
can't
else. Yeah.
catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that. That's so. This is a like a party game.
Yeah, it's just a party game.
Cow popcorn.
Party
Pop
cow popcorn with 2 minutes on the clock. Party cow
Party
popcorn.
cow popcorn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we nailed it. Time that was the time.
Time.
2 minutes left. All right,
All
I'm
right.
ready for the next 3 words.
Woohoo! Let's
I'll
get
try
'em.
not to monopolize the idea with my really weird one.
No, that's fine. I liked it. All right. Cold. Relative.
Okay.
Modest. Cold. Relative. Modest. So I will say the worst thought that I had, which I think I should share, when I saw cold relative was dead people.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
could be at a morgue.
Okay.
I don't know.
So a Victorian morgue worker.
Sure.
The Victorian is because, that's when we think of modest dress.
Okay.
So you, yeah,
Sure.
that's
Sure.
where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
You're working at a morgue, and what do you do? Do you solve mysteries?
Morgue mystery.
Maybe you talk to the dead people,
Yeah. Yep.
and that allows you to solve mysteries relating to their deaths.
So it's the show about pie. What was that show?
Oh, like the guy who
Pushing Daisies. That's the show.
yeah. Yes. I remember watching one episode of that show.
I liked that show. It was very
Yeah.
weird, but I liked it.
Except it's set in Victorian times.
Yeah.
And
So the relatives, so it's like the relatives are like, I think this person died in a suspicious way. And then you have to like summon the ghost of them and they talk to you and then you get to like solve a mystery.
yes, and sometimes it's the relatives who did it.
Obviously. Got to be.
Yeah, and so they don't come to you. You just realize that the corpse seems to have died in a mysterious way. Because at the morgue in the Victorian eras, I'm pretty sure they would also do the autopsies.
I don't know when autopsies started. I think around
Well,
then.
I'm basing it entirely on Carnival Row, where they were doing autopsies, and it was pretty Victorian.
I know there was a shift because it started with like a body's assumed dead. We don't touch it. We don't do anything with it. That's bad. That's bad news.
Yeah.
And then people started to get more intrigued about like reviving people who had seemed to die because like often they weren't actually dead yet, but they would just let them die.
Oh, that's fun. That's gruesome. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's the little grave bell everyone hears about because like,
oh yeah,
it was like
and
very
the
hard to
scratches on the
tell.
inside of the coffins.
Yes, because people couldn't tell if they didn't have a lot of like good skills to tell if people were actually dead, and they didn't want to touch dead bodies very much, so they just kind of were like, oh, probably dead. Yeah. But then they started to move into more of like the science era where they were like just very curious about what was going on in the body, and that became less. They became less squeamish around the dead. So I don't know what time. I like that's like the like anecdotal. I don't know about the time.
So worst case scenario, as we make this game, right in the development process, we find out that autopsies were actually way like later. We just say, "Oh, this is the unknown story of the first
Yes, a very
autopsy
advanced
giver."
doctor. I think that's totally fine. And
Yeah.
we could call it relative murder. Relative murder relativity. We can call it Is That a Ghost in My House?
No, wait, no. We're going. Is that a ghost in my house? I'm keeping it. With 1 minute and 30 seconds, I'm calling time.
Okay.
Is that a ghost in my house? The tale of the first mortician who did autopsies
Good.
to solve murders, and also talked to ghosts.
Perfect. Okay, are you ready for our final 3 words?
I absolutely am, but I don't think we're gonna top. Is there a ghost in my
I
house?
don't think so. All right. Plaintiff, difficult,
Okay.
articulate. This all connects. This is
this is just Lawyer the game.
This is Lawyer the game. Has there been a
It's
lawyer
Phoenix
simulator?
Wright. Yes,
Because
yes.
there is.
The Phoenix Wright series, which is an anime game, and it's got a lot of memes about it because like one of the things that you can do is like object, and then your character goes objection, and like it has voice acting, and like a big thing comes up,
Good.
and that's when you catch the other lawyer / witnesses in lies and stuff. So basically, this game is just the Phoenix.
So I think
Wright.
let's like to make it interesting because it's plaintiff, difficult, articulate. So maybe it's like the plaintiff. I don't know enough.
Is the
about
plaintiff
courts.
the one
I
being
know.
accused?
I was asking that. I don't know.
I'm gonna Google it.
I don't know. Yeah, I just know it's a court thing.
A person who brings a case against another in a court of law. Okay. So the defendant is the accused. Oh, that makes sense. So the plaintiff is the accuser.
So I guess you'd play as a prosecutor, right? Not a defender.
Yes, which I think is the unique thing because I'm pretty sure in Phoenix Wright you are the defender. No, I've never played Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, but yeah. So
sorry, gamers.
So you'd play a prosecutor, and then it's difficult because that's just a difficult place to be because you're trying to put someone in prison, and that's just ethically, a challenge.
Yep.
No, I think that's it's a courtroom simulator. You play a prosecutor.
So let's try to describe some gameplay so that we're not just saying it's Phoenix Wright. You've played it, right? Because I haven't actually played it, so I don't know what the gameplay actually is. So, the best part about Law and Order is when they go to collect evidence, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I'm thinking of House. Do they collect evidence in Law and Order?
Yeah, because that's the law part.
Okay.
But they don't do it like House. It's not the same thing because they have to like interview people and like they get results from the lab. It's not what you're imagining.
I think CSI is the one where it's about like actually like collecting evidence from the crime scene.
Yes.
And lawyers don't do that.
No.
The crime scene investigators do that.
And then lawyers get the information.
So the lawyer would be reading through the evidence that has been collected.
Yeah.
And then making conclusions from that. But how do you generate gameplay for that without like kind of shoehorning it where if the player finds the correct pieces of evidence they win? Because like it feels like to me
this might be too simple, but so there is this game mechanic in Life is Strange Before the Storm where you had to pick disses because the main character in that doesn't have like powers. So the whole thing is you have to pick the right diss for the right person. Like basically like this person will be hurt or convinced by me saying this, and you have a bunch of choices and it's timed. So I almost think that's what it is like you have to pick the right like gotcha, but you have like only a short amount of time to do it.
Okay, and then the gotchas are based on, so like the disses were based on the conversations you've had with the character,
right? So
these would be based on the evidence. So you would have a phase where you just look over the evidence
because it is articulate. So it might not even have to be that you have to discover things. It's more that you have to say them in the right way.
Yeah.
Because if you say them in the wrong way, you could get an objection, or you could get, or like the jury could be against you if you're like being like saying certain things. So you have to know who your jury is. You have to know who your audience is. Like you have to know who the judge is. And then it's not about solving the case. It's more about how you say it. That's the articulate.
Okay. Okay. So maybe it's not really about the player like looking at evidence really, but like they get 3 choices which seem to say like a similar thing.
It's just the way they say it.
Yeah.
And
so they're not really So is it based on how they think the judge will react, or
Yeah, the jury. Well, it'd be the jury, and it depend. Well, it depends on what they're responding to. So, like, if they're responding to an objection, you look to the judge. But generally, you're going to be wanting to know who's in your jury. So you would like during jury selection could be part of the game, and you'd have to really get to know
oh, I
like
think
who's.
that's a unique
Yeah.
like
And then you really know who's in the jury, which is how real court works, and then that way you'd be playing to that audience, right? So
okay. And maybe each dialogue option, like it's timed and like it'll tell you like certain values about it. Like it'll be like plus 10 emotional. So if you know that you've got a jury filled with emotional people, like it'll
yeah.
be good for you to call that. We have 10 seconds to come up with a name.
Um. I object.
I object with 3 seconds left. Uh, I don't. No, because you're. It's not really about you objecting.
I
It's
know.
about you stopping the objection. Did we fail our first ever rapid fire round?
I guess we didn't name it in time.
We didn't name
Prosecute.
it in
We just
time.
call it prosecute.
No,
Prosecutey.
it's y'all prosecutey.
And
A
that means
couple
we can have
seconds too
outfits.
late.
That means we can have outfits. Lawyer outfits. Okay. I mean, did we fail the rapid fire? Yes, but I think we can still call it prosecutey.
Yes, yes. Oh, so we did come with all the mechanics. Like we got most of it. It's just the
Yeah.
name stumped
And
us.
we got
But we did
prosecutey.
talk deep in the mechanics.
Prosecutey. With outfits.
Prosecutey. 5 minutes and 25 seconds.
It's fine. Okay. All right. Well, that's the end of our show, everybody. Thank you for listening. You can find us on social media at Make That Game Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find us on YouTube. Search Make That Game, the channel. And you can email us, Make That Game Podcast, okay, folks, at gmail.com with any games you want us to honk and bonk, any ideas that you might have for games or words you want us to turn into games. We are open to all of those things. Thank you so much for listening. And if you heard a game today that you think should exist out there in the world, we encourage you to get out there and make